documenting your classes. What we're going to do now is turn our attention to a really good practice, best practice if you will, and that's documentation and commenting. And I want to go over in the first part of this series, and this first part of this video is what you should comment and document, why you should do it, and how you should go about doing it. Then I want to start introducing you to Java's very special syntax for commenting. Now, we've been using comments in Java for a while. There's actually two ways that we've been doing it, and I'll review those. That's the single line comment and the multi-line comment. Then I want to start showing you how to do is use Java's special syntax for commenting called javadoc comments. Then I'm going to introduce you into a very cool tool called javadoc, and then how you can go ahead and enhance your documentation using a special set of tags. Okay, the first thing let's start talking about is commenting your code in Java. And I want to answer a couple of questions. The first question is, why in the world should I actually take the time and put in the effort to comment my code and to document the code? There's absolutely two very important reasons. The first thing is it makes your code clear. It makes your code easier to understand because you're going to be explaining, and I'll talk a little bit more about this as I go along, why you are doing what you are doing, and that's a very important distinction. The other thing is that it is very frequently that you'll do something and you won't work on it for about 6 months, then you come back and you're asked to modify it or change it. And then if you've made good comments, it makes upgrading and updating and maintaining your code a lot easier. Also, put yourself in a position where, let's say you're the only programmer in your group and you've got a huge project and you're allowed to hire contractors to come in and help you. Well, the idea is that your boss has hired the contractors to come in and help you, but you're going to be asked to maintain that application and that code once they leave. Don't you think you'd like them to go ahead and document every little nook and cranny that they possibly can in order to make your life easier when they go? You bet. So what in fact should I comment is then the next question. The next question has two answers, a detailed answer and a simple answer. Here's the simple answer. You should comment everything. Absolutely everything must be commented. Leave no stitch of code neglected. You want to document the reason for what you're doing in classes and what this class is all about. You want to document the methods, the parameters in those methods, the return values of your methods, the fields, okay, the variables, the constants, and the constructors. You want to comment everything. Leave no stitch of code undocumented. Very, very important. So now that we understand why I should comment and what should I comment, is there a technique that explains to me, or do I have any recommendations for what you should comment? And the answer is absolutely. What you should comment in terms of how, rather, you should comment. This is the how. And here's an important concept that I want to leave you with in terms of how you should comment your code as far as a commenting strategy. And what you need to do is explain why you are doing what you are doing. Don't just say this variable represents a student ID and this variable represents a student's first name. You know, if you've named your variables accurately, we'll be able to figure that out in the code. But when you start writing up some complex stuff and you don't explain your rationale behind what you're doing or why you're doing what you're doing, then we're trying to guess, or we're trying to figure out what it is that you were doing. So it's very important that you explain why you are programming what you are programming. Okay, let's go ahead and start taking a look at how you comment in Java. And again, we've been doing two of these for a while, and I'm going to introduce you to the third one now. But let's take a quick review. In Java, I could have a single line comment. And the single line comment is started with two forward slashes. So I do forward slash, and then whatever my Java code is here, and that line is commented out. The immediate next line is not considered to be a comment. If you want to do multi-line comments, you can do it this way. you use the single forward slash and asterisk, then you have your comments. So let's say this is a paragraph of explanation as to what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, all that good stuff. And basically you turn it on here, and Java will ignore, the compiler rather, will ignore everything that it sees after this until it sees this. And this is basically turning it off. So you could, if you wanted to, you could use it, inline too. Let's say you wanted to turn it on and then have some comment, some code, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then you can go ahead and just turn it off in there as well. So it's very handy for a multi-line comment for that reason. Here is the third one, and this is for documentation using a tool that I'm going to introduce you to shortly called javadoc. And it's very similar to the multi-line comment except for one thing. It in fact has an extra asterisk right there. Okay? It has that extra asterisk. So I've been talking a little bit about commenting with Java, but what tool am I going to use to comment my code in Java? What does Java offer me that, really makes my comments come to life and makes them really cool? Well, it's a special tool called javadoc. Javadoc can be found hiding in the bin directory where you installed your JDK. It's a standard part of the Java 2 Solution Developer Kit. So if I go to my C drive and we go into the J2 SDK, Software Development Kit, Standard Edition, and we go into the bin directory, we will see that we have a exe called javadoc that comes exactly with the tool. What does javadoc produce? Why is this really cool? Well, you've been looking at the fruits of javadoc's labor the whole time. The API, the Java documentation that we've been working with this whole time, is produced by the tool called javadoc. This website specifically here, right here. Now, here's what's pretty cool about this website. This website was not generated at all by human hands. Nobody typed any of this up. This website was dynamically produced by javadoc, and you have the ability to produce documentation for your classes and your applications in this format, where it puts the packages up here, puts information about the classes in here, and then this is like the main pane or the results pane where whatever you click on in terms of your classes and your methods show up here. Let's take a look at a quick example. I'm going to go into my Java directory. So cd java, and I created a directory called javadoc. And let's start it, bring that to, and in here I've got a class file called student.java. Let's open it up with TextPad. And you can see it's a fairly lengthy class that I created. Not a lot of comments. As a matter of fact, no comments at all. And this is just basically a class to stub out. It's a class that represents a student. It's got 3 member level or class level variables or fields, a private first name, a private last name, a private student ID. It's got 1, 2, 3 constructors, okay? The constructor that takes nothing, just an empty constructor. It then has a constructor that allows you to pass a first name and a last name, a constructor that allows you to pass a first name, last name, and an ID. It also has accessors and mutators for good programming encapsulation. Get first name, get set first name, get last name, set last name, get student ID, set student ID. And then finally, I've thrown in a couple of extra methods for like get the grades. You pass in what semester you're in and the course ID or the class ID, and it creates an array of strings based on the class ID, and it returns grades to you. Here is set course. Maybe you want to register for a course. So you go ahead and put in the course that you want to register for. It sets a status code to -1. it runs some magic, and it returns a status code. Let's say it returns a 0 if you've been registered, it returns a 1 if you've been declined, or a 2 if you're on the waiting list, something like that. Here you have drop course, and you specify the course number that you want to drop, the course ID, and it will return true if the drop was successful or false if the drop failed. Let's say you want to drop a course, past the deadline. Let's say you're way into the semester and decide, well, I'm out of here, I want to drop. Well, you can't do that. Then finally, as a good university would, they have to provide you a mechanism for paying your tuition, paying your fees. So I wrote a method to allow you to do that. And what you do is you pass in the fee type. Let's say I'm paying a health insurance fee, or I'm paying a fee type of tuition, a late fee, whatever fee type, is out there. Okay, I didn't want to write one method for every possible fee type. I just wrote a method called pay fee. You pass in the fee type. You pass in the fee code. Let's say I'm paying my tuition and it's code 543, which tells the computer system this is, you know, third semester or second semester, whatever, or summer school semester, and then you put in an int of CCN, your credit card number. And then it goes ahead and does some status code. There'd be some programming magic here, and then it returns, some form of a status code as yes, this was paid accurately, or it failed. Here's reason 1, reason 2, reason 3, etc. It failed. Now, fortunate for you all, you had me to go through and explain to you what this class is supposed to do. But what if somebody just handed you this class and said, listen, we hired a consultant to come in here and write this class. Now we need you to implement it inside of an application. And what if the class, the source code just looked exactly like what you're seeing here without any documentation? Well, so that's what we're going to be studying now, and we're going to be learning how to overcome that. But let's stay focused on what we're doing with javadoc. Let me show you how you use javadoc in just the most rudimentary or fundamental form. Javadoc is a command line tool. Let me just go ahead and run it. You can see that there are several switches that you can use. The most common one, and the one that you actually have to use, is the -D. Okay. Here you can see javadoc usages. You have some options. You have optional package names, source files, class names, etc. Okay. And then we're going to use the -D. And the -D for javadoc lets me specify, and you can see it's here, a directory, a destination directory for the output files. You have to go ahead and specify that. You also have to specify the files that you're going to be using with javadoc. Now you can itemize them, or you can just simply use star.java, and that's what I'm going to do. So let me do a dir. You notice we only have one Java file in this directory. So I can do java doc-d, and I'll call this my docs for documentation, star.java. And when I hit enter, watch what it does. It's going to start doing some pretty cool stuff. And it starts generating all the stuff. It constructs javadoc information. It starts the doclet application. It generates the folder my docs with constant values htm, and it starts building a tree for all your packages and index, and then it starts creating all of these HTML files, a cascading style sheet, etc., etc., etc. If we do a if we go into my docs and do a dir, all of this stuff was just built for us on the fly. So let's take a look at it in Windows Explorer to see what we get. There's my docs. And here we can see all the files. Again, all of these files, let me go to a details view. All of these files were just generated for us right on the fly automatically by that executable. I'm going to launch the index.html, and this is what we get. Now I'm using, and I left this up here because I'm using Windows XP Service Pack 2, and it does run some active content. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on the pane here and say allow that, and answer. It says yes, it's going to use some ActiveX controls. Yeah, go ahead and run it anyways. Here you can see that I've got, now I didn't have any packages, so that's fine, but I've got my student class, and here we can see that it's package class tree, da da da. Here's the index. This help file, this menu is created for us up here, and it automatically creates this. You could see this is our student class, and it inherits from java.lang. Here's the class declaration, public class student extends java.lang.object. Here it builds all the constructors for us. Here it puts in all the methods for us. And here we have some constructor details, etc. And we can go through and we can see all the information about the various methods that we have here. But let me let me minimize that, and let's compare and contrast the Java docs that I created with those in the real documentation provided by Sun. Let's go back to the API, and you'll start noticing a difference right away, I hope. And that is theirs is a lot more richer, a lot more fuller of information. It's not just a pretty spiffy web page. They actually have some verbiage in there. For example, let's just go into one of their classes. So let me just kind of align this up here so we could see it a little bit better. Okay, let's go to how about java.lang, and we'll go to the string exceptions. I want a class. Let's go to the math class. This will be a good one. There's a lot of explanation going on in that class. And here we can see java.lang.math. And you can see that it looks exactly like ours. Okay. Java.lang class student, java.lang.math. My student extends from java.lang. Fairly similar. Here you can see it goes ahead and gives us the class declaration. Okay, then we start scrolling down and look at all this stuff here. Notice how there's, in Suns, they give us a whole explanation of what's going on in the math class here, which is very, very nice of them to do before they start pounding on us with like field summary, method summary, and etc. Well, I want us to go ahead and spice up our Java documentation. So I want to go ahead and create a lot more information other than what we just have. So let's go back into the Java doc directory and let's delete all the stuff that we just created. So goodbye, you're gone. Oh, do I have something open that might be using that? Let's go ahead and close this. That should allow me to, this is the culprit here. Can't have the command prompt open too. Okay, so I deleted all the stuff that we just had. Let's start by going into TextPad and opening up my Java doc application, or rather my student application inside of TextPad. So student.java. All right, and the first thing I'm going to do is give myself a little bit of breathing room here, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type slash star star and then star slash, okay? And then I'm going to say something like star this, the student class represents a base level student at a typical university. The student class can be used to instantiate a university student object. The student class will allow you to bump, bump, bump. Okay, whatever you want to do. Now that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and save that. And I'm going to open up my command prompt and go into my Java cd javadoc, and I'm going to do javadoc dash d my docs star.java. Okay, let it rebuild its thing here. And let's take a look at what it's going to kind of look like so far. Yep, that's all right. Thank you, Windows XP Service Pack 2. And check it out. You could already start to see that my information is being populated. And it's starting to really come together here, which is pretty neat. Now, here's another cool trick you can do. You can also put HTML in there. For example, let's go back into my class, and let's say I want to make this blue. So I'll say font color equals blue, and close the font. Or I could come down here and do like paragraph and then close the paragraph and then put a whole bunch of stuff in here. Some more comments. Okay, and you could see that they're going to be separated by a paragraph. I'm just copying and pasting. So here, this is going to be blue. Let's go ahead and underline university student. Okay, now let me go ahead and save this and rebuild the docs. Let's go, that should be all right. So let's go ahead and rebuild the docs. And I'm just rerunning the same command and it just write everything over. All right, now let's refresh. So I'm going to right click in here and do a refresh. And here you can see I've got student is blue. Okay, I specified it in my font color of blue. And then I put in underline for university student. So you can see university student is underlined. Here's my paragraph break. Okay, and I put some more comments, some more comments, some more comments. Now, see, remember, this is HTML, so unless I put in a BR tag, these will all be on the same line. Okay, so got to remember that stuff. Now, there are some special things that you can do to really start enhancing them using something called tags. Javadoc tags are really cool. They're a special syntax that you can include into the Javadoc comments, and it puts a special denotation in the output. For example, there's the @author tag. And the @author tag is really good because it allows you to specify the author of the class. And it is highly recommended that you use this in classes and interfaces that you create, okay, as far as the best practices. So interfaces, you definitely want to do them there. @version, okay, this lets you specify a version number, so classes and interfaces there. Here you've got parameters. This should be done on constructors. Remember the shortcut for a constructor looks like that, as well as methods. And then this is methods only, because only methods can return something. Okay. Now there's a bunch more tags that you can use. There's tons and tons of them, but these are the main ones that I want to go over now. Okay, let's jump back into the class and put some of this stuff to work. Now before we do that, I actually want to go ahead and modify some of this. I want to just show you some more HTML stuff so you could see that while I'm thinking about it. I'm putting in a couple of line tags, and I'm also going to take advantage of the PR tag. And this is, or PRE rather, this is the pre-format the HTML tag. And it looks like this, example. Okay, notice I started with the pre tag here, and I'm going to say example, and then I'll do something like student S1 equals a new student. Notice how I've done a line break and I've tabbed it over. I've done another line break and I've tabbed that over. Okay, the pre-tag is going to remember all that stuff. So it's a pretty cool tag. All right, now let's come down and put those tags to use. I'm going to go and do the at author, and I'm going to say Robert Barr CBT Nuggets 2004, and we'll go ahead and do at version, you gotta spell the stuff right too, 1.0. Alright, so let me save that, and let me hop back into here, and javadoc. Now, before I do that, let me just say this. You have to specify now that you want to use the version and the author. So you say dash author for author, dash version for version, dash D, can't get rid of that, my doc star.java, and let it do its thing. All right, and we have that. Let's go ahead and refresh this page by hitting an F5. And here is the result of my pre-tag. Okay, you can see the pre. And here is the result of my version and my author, which is pretty neat, pretty cool to do. I want to show you this because you have to get the syntax almost, dang near perfect. Here's what I mean. Let me go back into here, and I'm going to put a space after version. Just one little tiny space between, rather, I shouldn't say after version, but after the at sign and between the V and the version, okay? Now watch this. I'm going to rerun this command, and let's see if it likes it or not. Look at this. Warning, unknown tag, line 18. Well, it didn't get the line right, but it's barking about the fact that this is an unknown tag. You can't, mess that stuff up. You have to get it as specific as possible. So now that I recorrected that space and I rerun it, it'll go ahead and run just fine. You can see I get no warnings at all. Okay, let's go ahead and start putting in some more comments. Something else that it's a good thing to do is always start your commenting with the name of the class. That's just like a standard thing to do. So class student. It's like the title page, if you will. As a matter of fact, I'm going to also put in a break there too, just to make sure that has some good separation. All right, so we documented the class. Let's come down here and document our constructor. So we'll go ahead and start with our documentation and give us some room to work with here. And we'll go over here and say class constructor. This is the default no argument constructor. We could come in here and also do some pretty neat things like, pre-example tab student S1 equals a new student. Something like that. And then close the pre-tag. All right. Now, let's take a look at one that actually has parameters. And I'm going to come into here and I'm going to say start my Java docs. And we're going to use the param tag to help us explain the parameters used in this constructor. So let's go over here and kind of do a little bit of the same thing. Class constructor. And we'll say something like, let's do a line break. All right, now watch this. At PARAM, and then we'll say FN, and then the students student's first name. Okay, then we'll do another at param ln the student's last name. Okay, so let's go ahead and you know what? I also want to stay fairly consistent and do the pre, and we'll do an example because this is real world work what we're doing here. And you're gonna be doing this stuff, so you might as well watch me set it up. Example tab student S1 equals new student John Doe. You know what's really cool too about making your own documentation is if there's things that you don't like about Sun's documentation that they provide, in your documentation, enhance it, make it better. So I go ahead and save that, and let's go ahead and rerun the javadoc. Alrighty, and let's refresh that by hitting an F5. Alright, so here we can see our class student. We're building that up. Okay, and now we're getting some constructor information. And let me go ahead and click on this first constructor here. Click on that link, and it says class constructor, and it says this is the default no argument constructor, and it gives an example. And then here's the second one, public student da 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 da. And here it says class constructor, like what I did before. Here's my example, student S1 equals a new student, John Doe, all that cool stuff. And here are my parameters. FN, the student's first name, LN, the student's last name, okay? And then we could go on and on and on. Now what I want to do is go in and start messing with one of the um, methods and show you how to define something for the return type. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down to, let's say, let's do this one first. Public int set course. Okay, so I start my Java docs, and I give myself a little breathing room, and we just start commenting away. Let me just bring this up a little bit more. Public set course is used to register a student for a particular course by specifying the course ID. Alright, so now we'll do a line break, and I'm going to do my parameters, so at param, and we'll do course ID, the course identification number, okay, and then at return, and the return will be something like, you don't necessarily specify, you know, what the return is. It's the status code. Say the status code for the transaction. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. Come back out here and rerun javadocs. See what we get. All right, come over here and refresh this, F5, load it back up, and scroll down here, and we documented set course. So let's find set course here. Here's set course. I could already see public set course is used to register students for a particular course by specifying the course ID. Let's look at the return type. It returns an int. It takes an int course ID. If I go ahead and click on it, we go into and get some more details. Public int set course. Here's my little bit of verbiage about it. Here's the parameter, and here's the return type. And again, let me just kind of line this up a little bit nicer. You could see that the at param corresponds to the parameters here, and the at return is the return statement uh, down here, and this all gets nicely built into the documentation engine. So it's an amazing tool. I mean, you could spend a ton of time writing up awesome documentation, and I hope you do. In documenting your classes, we went over why you want to document, what you should document, and how you should document. And I specified a real key important part of this is when you document, you should document your rationale for behind what you're doing. Don't just say what you're doing, but explain why you're doing what you're doing. Then we went over the Java commenting syntax, where you start with a forward slash, two asterisks, then you have your remaining, an asterisk for every line, and then you end the javadoc like that. And then your javadoc stuff goes in here. Then we went over the javadoc.exe tool that comes with the J2 SDK when you install it, as well as some javadoc tags like @author and @param. Remember, javadoc is really sensitive, so that little white space should be a little bit closer together. And it produces just an amazing web site for you with all your code documented. I hope you have found this informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.